Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to AMN Healthcare International's live show, Onwards and Upwards, where you can learn everything a global healthcare worker needs to know about living and working in the United States. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning, Danielle. Welcome back.
Recruitment, for those who do not know. And now you're seeing all of your other familiar faces. Go ahead, Luciana. I think I interrupted you.
We wanted to welcome you back. Welcome back from maternity leave. We've missed you, all of us.
Oh, thank you all. Well, you have seen all of these faces over the last few months, my amazing colleagues and friends who allowed me to have some special time with my babies. So thank you to all of you. But don't worry, they'll all be back. Aww.
Oh, so sweet.
Adorable. Oh my God, look at Luciana.
Thank you. If you've been following along with the show, you know I've been the host for quite some time, and I've now had 2 maternity leaves. So you've seen my babies grow.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for letting us step in for you.
Well, thank you guys so much. I couldn't have done it without you. And I'm excited to be coming back, but excited that you guys are still going to be sticking around. We'll see these friendly faces later in the show.
Yep.
Thank you, Danielle.
Welcome back.
Thanks, everybody. Thank you guys so much. Well, today we have our special monthly immigration show. I am so excited to be back with you all today. Please let me know where you're watching from. I love to see where everybody's watching from. I've been following along for the past few months. I've been seeing everybody is very busy and very active, which is so exciting. Oh, thank you, Annie. I appreciate the comment on the adorable children. I see we have Nilda from Saudi Arabia. We have Rooney who's saying good morning. Good morning to Rooney. We have Bigya from Nepal, Bastau from Bahrain, Gurmina from Nepal, Lydia from Kenya. We've got everybody from all over the world. So thank you, everybody. Welcome to our first immigration show of 2025. Can you all believe that we are in 2025? How crazy, how the time flies. I am so excited to be back with you all. We are so excited to have our new year, to have new resolutions and new year, to start off fresh, see what you all are up to, see how we can help you all, and just excited to be back and ready to get back into action. So let's talk about what we have coming up on our show today. So coming up on our show today, we are going to have our segment Dream Jobs with Dee. We're going to get to learn about some current active hiring jobs. We're going to do our immigration Q&A, and we are bringing back the legal hotline. So if you haven't watched in quite some time, the legal hotline is where you can ask your questions. So if you have specific questions, well, we'd like you to keep them general so everybody can understand and take away from your questions. But you can come on the legal hotline and ask our legal experts. And then we round out with our clinical corner. So you can learn some good clinical tips from our nurse educator, Holly. So let's bring out Dee for Dream Jobs with Dee. Let's see what she's got in store.
Hello, everyone. Hi, Dan. Welcome back. We missed you. Such adorable pictures of the children. So thank you for sharing those with us. And I'm so excited that I still get to speak to this amazing audience who joins us every single week to really get the most up-to-date information about what's happening in the industry, the environment, some great opportunities that we have available. So what I want to focus on today, there's 2 key things that I wanted to focus on today. And the first thing is just, we talk about this every single show, and we're not going to stop talking about it every single show. It's, what happens in the visa bulletin, and you're going to learn a lot about that today in our immigration Q&A. Very excited for the legal hotline as well. And our panel of experts will be out shortly with Danielle. But, we're not going to stop talking about it is time to get your place in line. And it is our responsibility as your trusted partner who you have chosen to guide you on this journey to the United States. If you have not already, then we would love to assist you and your family realize your American dream. But your time is now, right? So there are only certain things that you can control. And the first thing that you can control is making the decision to get your place in line today. So I wanted to just briefly touch on what the environment is like right now. So if you cast your mind back post-COVID days, I can't believe that it was 5 years ago that we were talking about this and we were living this and this was our reality. That's just a testament to how quickly time flies. Danielle had mentioned that in her opening statements, is that, you know, we're in 2025 and just that's how quickly time moves. So don't be hesitant to get your process started because the timing may be a little longer than what you had anticipated or what you want, but we can sit and we can hope that things are going to progress, but hope is not a strategy that is going to get you to the United States quicker. Right. So, and besides what our facilities are looking for, and post-COVID, our clients were more open to, maybe you had lesser experience, maybe you weren't working bedside at the current minute, and that was more palatable at that stage. Right now, our clients are looking for strong experience. So one other thing that is in your control is that if you are not currently working bedside, please start working bedside so that you can be considered for the amazing opportunities that are available here in the US just waiting for you, both on the staffing and the direct hire side. You know, AMN Healthcare International is the only organization that offers both, and we've got opportunities for both. So if you have not started your process, highly encourage you to get that process started today. It is extremely competitive from a clinician standpoint. We have seen more NCLEX passers in the last couple of years than we have seen historically. So everybody who takes NCLEX, what is their ultimate goal? It is to live and work in the United States as a healthcare professional. So keep in mind, everybody listening here who is already started on their process is already in line and ahead of you if you have not started your process. So please, we're going to continue talking about it, but this is what you can control. We have opportunities across the United States. So we can pull up the map where we've got opportunities across the United States. But you know what? This changes. This changes day to day. This changes week to week. This changes month to month. So if you have an offer or you are sitting on a contract that you have not signed yet and you are waiting for that perfect opportunity, then you may lose that opportunity because there are other people who are in line that may be ahead of you that may want that opportunity, that may love that opportunity. We want to make sure that you are comfortable and confident in where you choose to be in the United States. So if you want a little bit more time to think about where that is, then staffing is a perfect opportunity for you because you can get your I-140 filed immediately, establish that all-important priority date, and you've got the luxury of time to figure out where that perfect place is. So let us assist you. Let us help you. Let us help you take the next step because that is what is going to get you closer to your American dream. And the longer you wait, the more time you are adding to your process. Okay, so we are not going to stop talking about this, but I felt that it was very, very important for us just to try and educate everybody on what it's like right now, both from a clinician standpoint and the competitive environment that you are finding yourself in, and also the client landscape and what they are looking for strong experience, currently working bedside. So if you are not, highly encourage you to get back bedside. And if you have not started your process and started getting your I-140 prepped and filed, I would highly encourage you to do that today so that you can get your place in line, whatever terminology you want to use, get your place in line so that you can start the clock ticking on your process. And I know there were many, many nurses who are listening in today who, are here in the United States, and their process may have taken longer than what they had wanted. However, they are here and they are thriving. I just want one more thing. If you are a TN nurse, if you are a nurse on the line and you qualify for a TN, or you're in the unfortunate position where you may have had an offer and it was rescinded or it was canceled, we have amazing opportunities for you. So please apply to us today, amnhealthcare.com/international. Your application will be prioritized. We have a dedicated recruiter who will be working with you so that we can present the amazing opportunities that we have for you very, very quickly. So I know I may have gone over my time. I'm sorry, but I'm just so excited about the opportunities that we have and really helping everybody who is listening in today realize the next step in coming here to America and thriving and living your American dream. So I will hand it back over to Danielle. Thank you so much for letting me speak to you. Until next time, choose smart, choose well, and choose AMN International.
Thank you, Dee. That was so helpful, so informative. I'm going to sum it up for you. I've been out for a little while, so I'm a little rusty, but this is what I'm hearing from Dee. Number 1, get filed. Don't wait. If you have a job offer through direct hire and that's what you want, great. Take it. Get filed. If you want to get a job offer faster, you want to get filed faster, take that job offer from staffing. They are filing immediately. Your most important thing is to get filed, get in line, get that priority date. And if you do not have a job offer, you haven't started your process, whatever that may be, do all of the other things that you can to help yourself during that waiting period. Pass your tests, take your NCLEX, take your IELTS, and most importantly, get that strong experience by the bedside. That is what Dee is saying to all of us. That's what I'm hearing, some really good advice. And if you want to come with AMN Healthcare International, where we have staffing and direct hire options for you, you can apply on our website. That's amnhealthcare.com/international. Our recruiters are on hand, ready, waiting, and excited to help you reach your American dream. So without further ado, let's get started with our immigration Q&A. Let's bring out our experts. Good morning, Chris.
Hey,
good morning, Mike and
Good morning.
Lori.
Well, it's e-learning day around here, so we have a lot of kids running around the office. So I expect Lori to come in at some point. So.
And who is Lori?
She's a 7-year-old that's kind of mine.
Oh, so she's probably the most seasoned of all of us. She probably knows all the immigration stuff. Bring in Lori.
Yes, she does. She can tell you what a priority date is. So.
I'm sure she can. Well, it's good to see you both, Chris and Mike. I've missed you both, and I've missed our monthly hangouts. Thank you both for being here
We're
today.
glad you're back.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Well, so I have 2025 goals for our group, and I want to hear from our nurses around the world. What are your goals for 2025? It's a new year. We have new hope for the visa bulletin moving. Hope to get to America. Are you going to take the NCLEX? Are you taking the IELTS? Have you been filed? Let us know in the chat. I see lots of people watching from all over, and we want to know, what are you doing to further yourself in this process? For this group, I'm hoping for 2025, we can give you good, helpful information. I'm hoping that the visa bulletin moves. I know we all hope that. We're hoping to see some good forward progression. So that when we have our monthly immigration Q&As, we can give you guys some good information. So let's take a moment. It's a new year. There might be some new people here. I might be a new face to everybody. My name is Danielle Friedman. I work at AMN Healthcare International. I am the Director of Special Projects, and I'm very excited to be here with our seasoned immigration immigration experts, Chris and Mike. I'll let you guys each take a moment to introduce yourselves. Chris, why don't you go first?
Sure thing. Yeah, no, I'm Chris Masillo. I'm an immigration attorney who works with a lot of AMN and a lot of AMN's clients, and so happy to join us for our usual monthly call. And happy 2025, everybody.
Thanks, Chris. Let's have Mike and maybe Lori go next.
Yeah, so Mike Hammond, I'm immigration attorney here in Cincinnati. Been doing this almost as long as Chris, and very excited to be here, part of this show again in 2025.
Thank you both. If you are watching live and you're just tuning in, we are also bringing back our legal hotline. So you can click on the link in the comments and you can join us live and ask your questions. We ask that you keep them general so that everybody can benefit from them. And if possible, we would love to see your faces. So if you have a question, you would love to come on, ask our legal experts. It's free legal advice, and that stuff doesn't come cheap. So get down there on that link. While we are waiting for some nurses to join, let's get started with the visa bulletin. So let's get started with you, Mike. Can you give us a little summary of what happened for the February visa bulletin?
Sure. The February visa bulletin came out earlier this week, and we essentially saw no movement in the EB3 rest of world. Philippines, we saw a couple week movement in India and about a month movement in China. This was not really unexpected because for the last couple years, they've been making movement on the final action date visa bulletin on almost like a quarterly basis as opposed to monthly. So no movement was expected. Obviously, we're always happy if we get a surprise and there is movement when we don't expect it, but it's pretty status quo for right now.
Okay, thank you, Mike. I know that might have been disappointing for a lot of people who are watching around the world, but I want to remind everybody, just because the dates didn't move doesn't mean that it's a denial. We can still get you to America. It just might take a little bit longer. There's just a delay. So I'm seeing quite a few questions about retrogression movement. Why is it not moving? I see Tony's asking, Soy's asking, do we think that in the coming months there will be retrogression? Chris, do you want to take that kind of general line of questioning?
Yeah, so I mean, yeah, it was definitely disappointing to see no movement. But as Mike said, the trend is to move in quarterly progressions, not monthly progressions. So, by that logic, we would hopefully see the April visa bulletin, which will come out in March. I think there's a chance we see some progression in the March visa bulletin, which will come out in February. But at this point, I guess the smart bet would be not to anticipate that. All of which, though, I think the big takeaways, Danielle, are, the visa bulletin is going to move forward. That is unquestionably true. Mike and I both, who have been doing this for quite a long time, we do see that the visa bulletin appears to be stuck from time to time, but it always moves ahead. And so while on one hand, that's concerning and disappointing for people, it doesn't really change the overall strategy, which is that if you want to come to America, this is the tried and true path. This is the method that you should use in order to come here. And, while it would have been nice if you came here in 24 months, it might take 30 months, but it's not going to take 50 months. So just move ahead and try not to get too discouraged on any monthly visa bulletin that it doesn't progress as forward as anyone would necessarily hope for.
Okay, so I'm a bit rusty here. So I want to make sure I'm understanding you, and I want to make sure that our audience is understanding. So what you're saying, Chris, is that retrogression has happened before, correct?
Yeah, no, it's happening right now, of course. Yes.
Exactly.
And in fact, the vast majority of the time that Mike and I have been doing this over the last 20 or 25 years, there has been a retrogression. And, without looking back and doing precise data on this, I would think that the current Philippine all other retrogression, which is a shade more than 2 years, maybe 2 years and 2 months, I would say that's about average. So this is not an unusual situation. Wow, it's disappointing if you're only considering where the visa bulletin was in 2023. Sure, that's worse when we were current, whereas now we have a 2 year and 2 month retrogression. That's the bad news. The good news is this is about the average. And, Mike and I have seen, tens of thousands of nurses come to the United States under this program over the years. And so a case that's being filed now is going to have about the average processing time subject to retrogression as any other nurse has had.
Okay, so if I'm hearing Chris correctly, which I think I am, he is saying that retrogression, while it is a scary word and it can be disappointing not seeing movement, doesn't mean that you're not going to get to the United States. It just means it might take a little bit longer than it previously did in recent years. But that 2 year-ish wait time is actually quite normal based on what Chris and Mike have seen over the last however many years that they've been doing this. So I think the big takeaway is get started. You can still get here. You just want to get your place in line. I'm seeing a lot of questions about the visa bulletin, as we would expect. There's one question here from Doris. Doris says, will the newly elected presidential candidate affect the visa bulletin moving forwards or backwards? Of course, it's speculation, but what do you both think? Mike, what do you think is going to happen when Trump comes into office?
Yeah, I don't think there's going to be any effect on the visa bulletin whatsoever. The visa bulletin and the statutory numbers have been in place for 40 years. So the president doesn't have any say over that. There would need to be a statutory change, so a change from Congress in order to change the number. So we're not going to see any visa bulletin effect from the President Trump's new administration.
Okay. Well, that's good information. What about, I'm seeing a lot of questions just on bans from some countries. Is that something that you think may happen? Chris, do you want to take this one?
I'd be a little bit surprised, although betting on what the incoming administration is going to do is always a tough one. But I think the case for banning people from certain countries is probably weaker than it was. Having said that, I certainly predicting these. There's a lot of these doomsday scenarios that are out there. I'm not sure what speculating on those really does. So I would suggest, instead of spending so much energy worrying about these doomsday scenarios, that we cannot control. You, the viewer, can't control it. Danielle, Mike, myself, that no one's calling us and asking us what to do. So I would say, stay diligent, read the news, keep on top of this, but to obsess on it and fear worst case scenarios, I think is probably a misplaced use of your time.
I think that is good advice. I see a lot of questions along the same line of questioning, kind of asking for speculation. And I think the big takeaway that I'm hearing from Chris and Mike is control what you can control. Do what you can do to get to the US faster. Take your NCLEX, take your IELTS, up that work experience. Make sure that you have your priority. Number one is get in line. That's what you can control. You can't control all of the other stuff. So that's how you're going to get here quicker. Oh, I think we have a little visitor. Hello, Lori.
You say hi to her?
Oh, and you have a little friend, I think, with you?
No, no friend. Just a
Lori.
Lori.
There's a teddy bear, no friend.
No hungry bear.
Lori, well, we're happy to have you. Do you want to say hello to everybody around the world?
Hi.
You're now famous. So cute. Well, let's get back to the basics. It's 2025. We might have a lot of nurses who are joining from around the world who it might be their first time watching, or like me, they might be a little rusty. Let's explain to them what we're even talking about. What is the visa bulletin and why does it matter? Why is everybody so worried about retrogression? Mike, and maybe a Lori if she comes back. Do you want to take this one?
Yeah, sure. So some of the basic concepts is something called a priority date. And that is the day you get in line, the day you get in the queue. So there is a line to come to the US. That line is because there is more of a demand to come to the US than is a supply of visa numbers or green card numbers. Those numbers are set by statute, and they are divided up by category. EB just stands for employment based. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Nurses fall under EB3. There are certain healthcare occupations, PTs, OTs, pharmacists that generally fall under EB2, but for most individuals on this call, they're under the EB3 category. And the day you get your priority date is the day your I-140, which is the first step in an RN's case, is filed. If you happen to be a med tech or other allied worker, your priority date is established the day your perm is filed. So different processes, but essentially priority date is important. Priority date is something personal to you. It's the receipt date for your I-140. It's not the approval date. And that is the date, again, you get in the queue. There are 2 charts that come out in the Visa Bulletin. The Visa Bulletin is a publication issued by the Department of State. It's free. You can go on and subscribe to it on the Department of State's website, and it'll get emailed to you every month, just like it is to Chris and I. There's 2 charts. There's something called a final action date chart. Some people call that chart A. That is the most important chart for individuals who are overseas, because that is the date that your priority date is. What we use the phrase current, just means front of the line. And that's when you can have a visa interview and be adjudicated, be issued your visa, and then come to the US. And to read the chart, you'll simply kind of look down and find your country of birth. Right now, China, India, Mexico, and the Philippines have their own charts. And then everybody else is what they call ROW, rest of the world. Right now, the Filipino dates have been mirroring the rest of the world dates, so they are the same right now. If you are in the US, the chart B, as a lot of people refer to it as, called the date for filing chart, is extremely important because that is the day when you can file your 485, and it is the 485 that gives you access to obtaining an EAD card, a work card, and something called advanced parole, which allows you to travel. The date for filing chart is ahead of the final action date chart. The date for filing chart is March 1st, 2023. Most of us believe that that is a predictor of where we can see at least the final action date chart reach throughout the course of the year issuance of the Visa Bulletin. So when we're saying we expect forward movement, we're not just being hopeful, we're not just guessing, we're not just making that up. We're actually saying that we believe at the very least the final action date chart will move forward to March 1st, 2023 during this fiscal year. So that's kind of a big picture overview of the Visa Bulletin and priority dates.
Okay, thank you, Mike. That's some good basic information. So key takeaway that I'm hearing for anybody who's watching and may have got a little lost in the legalese is most important thing is to get your priority date. That's how you get in line, and your priority date comes from the date that your I-140 is filed. Is that correct? Did I hear that right?
Yes.
Okay. So I see there are some questions kind of related to that. I see that Marianne is asking, how long does the approval of an I-140 take? Because mine is nearing 10 months. My priority date is 12th of March, 2023. How long does it usually take, and is it normal to take that long? Asked Madhu. So I think some people have some concerns around how long it's taking to get approved. Any advice there, Chris?
Yeah, a few points here. So first of all, 10 months I don't think is out of the ordinary. There's quite a bit of variance on these at different times of the year. So that's number one. I don't think 10 months is out of line. Number two, your priority date is set from the day you file your I-140, provided it gets approved. So in a world where we have a 2.2 year retrogression, other than peace of mind, this isn't really costing you any time, because if your I-140 was filed 10 months ago, let's call it March of 2023, the priority dates are in March of 2024. The priority dates are in November of 2022. So even if your I-140 got approved tomorrow, next month, or it would have been approved 2 or 3 months ago, it doesn't really matter. You're still locked into March of 2024 in a world where they're current processing November of 2022. Third point, I would always check with your attorney who filed your case. They can give you the best information about your case. And then fourth and final point, so for some people, money is less of an object, and they may want to spend $2,805, which they can do. They can increase, they can file the 2805 under something called the premium processing program. That will mean that their case gets adjudicated in 15 days. More and more, we're seeing the regular processing times just expand, which in the question we often see, or the comment we often get from USCIS, is if you don't like the processing time, there's another option, which is to upgrade your case to premium processing. But as we know, when Mike and I first heard of, when the USCIS first put premium processing in, God, I don't know, maybe 20 years ago, I believe the fee was like $1,000. So it's increased pretty dramatically, but that's another option. I'm not suggesting it's a very efficient option. None of those are great options, but again, you're not ultimately being costing any time. You can premium processing, and definitely check with your attorney who's going to give you the best information about your case.
Okay, thank you, Chris. That's very helpful. So what I'm hearing for Marion and Madhu is that processing time sounds pretty normal for what's happening right now at USCIS, and they may be asking about premium processing, which you would not recommend as an efficient use of funds right now. Mike, would you agree with that as well?
Yeah, absolutely. I think I am right now recommending premium processing only if someone's priority date is already current, which means you've got a priority date earlier than December 1st, 2022. Then I think premium processing makes sense. If your priority date is anything after that, I do not believe it is a wise use of money.
Okay. Thank you, Chris and Mike. Some good information. So if you are just joining us, we are live on Onwards and Upwards. Everything a global healthcare worker needs to know about living and working in the United States. And we are doing our immigration Q&A. If you have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat. We are asking Chris and Mike all of your questions. And if you would like to join our legal hotline and ask your question live, you can click the link in the chat. So that is an option for you. So we have got lots and lots of questions. So we're going to try and get to as many as we can. Let's see. We have a question from Agos Bay, who says, does everyone have to go through retrogression? Is there another way for healthcare workers to get their visa faster? Chris, any suggestions there?
Well, yeah. So I think the number one thing is, if there were a faster way, I assure you we would all be using it. There's not some secret hidden pathway that would allow you to go fast and allow everybody else to take so long. So that's number one. Number two, basically, if you're a nurse, the way to process your case is through the EB3 process. Unfortunately, you'll have to wait. The current visa bulletin is November of 2022, which is something like 2.2 years. So you'll have to wait that time. Third, there is a small segment of U.S. employers who meet the standards for what's called the H-1B visa. And that standard isn't so much about you. In order for you to qualify for the H-1B visa, your main standard is that you have to have graduated from a university with a BSN equivalent to the American system, which many overseas nurses do have. The challenge isn't you. It's that the U.S. health system where you're going to work has to have a discrete unit or division where they only hire U.S. bachelor degree nurses into those roles. And again, that is uncommon. It's not a zero, but it's very rare. But if you can find one of those kinds of folks, then they can file an H-1B visa for you. And the good news there is you can come to the United States in a matter of a few months, but they are rare.
Okay, thank you, Chris. That is good information for anybody who may have heard about the H-1B visa and thinking, is this maybe an option for me? I see we have a question from Johnny. Johnny is asking, are there any steps of the immigration process I can do before finishing my degree in nursing? Mike, are there any steps that Johnny can do?
I do not believe that you can get an ATT from any state to take the NCLEX exam until after you finished your education. There's certainly nothing that would prevent you from studying private materials for the NCLEX exam, but as far as any official steps you could take, I do not think so. I think you have to have what a state would consider to be a comparable degree under their state licensing rules in order for them to issue an ATT, which would allow you then to take the test. So I don't believe there's anything.
Okay. Well, I think that's a good question from Johnny, just asking us about, the steps in general. So we often bring up our success path. It's been a little while since I've seen the success path, but let's bring that up so that we can help our nurses who are around the world and thinking, how am I going to get here? How am I going to do this? I know there's a lot of information out there that can feel overwhelming and a little bit scary, quite frankly. So what we've tried to do here at AMN Healthcare International is distill it down into 7 steps. Now, this is going to look slightly different if you're coming on direct hire or if you're coming as a staffing nurse, but essentially most of it is the same. So number 1, the most important thing, your golden ticket to get started is taking the NCLEX. So that is what Mike was talking about, Johnny, is to start maybe studying for that nursing exam. So that exam is going to be your golden ticket to start the rest of the process. Once you've passed the NCLEX, you can apply to a company and get matched for an interview. So with AMN Healthcare International, we have both direct hire and staffing options. So if that's something that you are open to looking at, we can help you on both of those fronts. Once you get a job offer, you're going to move to steps 3 and 4, which is where you are going to do the visa work. So we're going to work with amazing attorneys such as Mike and Chris to help you get ready for your green card, gather all the right documents, make sure you get that priority date. I know we keep mentioning that. That really is your ticket in line. Step 4 is where we're going to do the licensing and credentialing. That's where we're going to help you figure out your license endorsement for the state that you're going to in the United States, get your visa screen certificates, all of that good stuff. Step 5, I know it might seem out of reach for a lot of you, but it's not out of reach. Step 5 is when you get ready to come to the US, and this can happen for you. This is when you are going to prepare for the transition. You're going to look at all the immigration stuff you need, the clinical stuff, and AMN is going to be with you through every step of the way. And then step 6, the arrival sequence. Imagine this. This is when you touch down in the US. I'll never forget when I arrived with my family. We touched down at LAX in Los Angeles. It's an amazing moment. It's a lot of hard work to get here, but very well worth it. And that's what step 6 is. And then step 7, enjoy and prosper. And that is really our goal for our international nurses, is to come to the US and prosper with your families. And I think that's our goal from me, from Chris, from Mike. That's why we do these shows every month. We just want to help our nurses around the world reach their American dreams, like so many before them. So let's get back to our questions. Hopefully that success path graphic was helpful. If you want to find that success path graphic, you can find it on our website. We also have some guidebooks that have been written to help you through the process. So let's pull up that graphic. You can download your free guidebook. It's got all the information you need on immigrating to the United States. We're going to put a link in the chat and you can go in. It's free. Go get the information. That is what's going to help you figure out exactly what you do when, what to expect, and all of that good stuff. So let's get back to our questions. I see we have a question from Liberia. Liberia says, hi, Chris, Mike, and Danielle. Hi, Liberia. Do unused EB4 and EB5 fall up to EB1, then EB3, or does it just end at EB1? I think maybe generally the question, and I have this one too, if there are unused visas in other EB categories, could they potentially fall to the EB3 category? Chris, do you want to take this one?
Yeah, so that's exactly what happens. I always caution on these calls, though, to not get too into the weeds on this. There's because the reality is the visa bulletin factors in all of those. So really, you only have to look at the visa bulletin. You don't have to try and create a spreadsheet to figure out where those numbers go. That's number one. Number two, most years there isn't really any overage from the EB4 and EB5, so there isn't a spillover into EB1, 2, and 3. So, but technically that's correct.
Okay, thank you, Chris. Good information for us. So I'm seeing a ton of questions about predictions. I think I'm just going to ask you to restate it one more time, Mike, what you're thinking is going to happen over the course of the year. I know we've previously said it on other immigration shows, but what kind of movement do you anticipate seeing? Because I'm seeing so many questions. It's hard for us to predict, but what do you think is going to happen?
Yeah, well, one of the things we have to kind of keep in mind is there is generally this, what we all refer to as summer retrogression, which means that the dates move further backward than they are at the beginning of the summer. And the reason why that is because the U.S. system uses a use it or lose it formula. So out of the, let's just pretend the number truly is 140,000 each year. At the end of September, when the new fiscal year ends, any green cards or immigrant visas that have not been passed out of the 140,000 are lost. So in order to make the most efficient system and use up as many numbers as possible, they process cases and try to issue visas as much as possible in the first 3 quarters of the year. So when we're looking at how quickly our date's going to move, we're almost always talking about the first 3 quarters of the year, not the fourth quarter. So with that kind of caveat, I think it's fair to say that historically the final action date chart has regularly made it to the date for filing chart, which means we can expect at least to March 1st, 2023. There is some hope that it could move a little bit further, that maybe they were a little conservative in how they put that in. But I'm still, in my mind, working off of that and expect that the next, let's call it big movement of multiple months, excuse me, would not occur until October of 2025 for the next fiscal year.
Okay, thank you, Mike. Chris, anything to add on that?
No, I think Mike hit really all the high points. I would agree with everything he just outlined.
All right. Okay. Well, there you have it from our legal experts. I'm seeing quite a lot of questions along the same vein. I see Saith is asking, hi, can I travel with a student scholarship visa to the US while my priority date is not current? I see somebody else also asked, can I travel on a tourist visa while my priority date is not current? Chris, do you want to go ahead and take that one? Are they able to travel here?
Yeah, these are good questions, and it's sort of the same answer for both, whether it's traveling to the United States on a student visa or on a tourist visa. So the short answer is technically, absolutely, you can travel to the United States. You have no problem entering the United States on those visas. A couple of other points, though, I think are relevant and important. First, you should anticipate coming into the United States and then leaving the United States at the end of, for instance, your tourist stay or at the end of your educational stay. So do not think that you're going to come to the United States and then file an adjustment of status. While that can happen occasionally, your expectation should not be that you will meet that standard. So that's number one. Number two, when you are at the airport and showing your visa to the immigration officer, you should be truthful, which is to say, if the officer asks you if you have a green card pending, you should say yes, but I am not going to adjust my status in the United States. I'm going to return to the Philippines, wherever I'm from, at the end of my tourist status or my visitor status or my student status, that I'm going to simply come in. If you're on a visitor's visa, maybe I'm going to come in for a month or two and then return. If I'm on a student visa, maybe at the end of the student school year, I'm going to exit the United States. But so you should obviously be truthful with that officer, which is to say, again, let them know that you do have the green card pending. They probably have that information anyway on their computer screen, but that two, you do not intend to get your green card in the United States. Three, we sometimes see, although it's not quite the problem that we used to see, we sometimes see that the immigration officers do not understand that if you are not looking to adjust your status, that you are legally allowed to enter the United States. And so you may get turned down at the airport, which is to say you may be told that you cannot enter the United States because you have a green card pending. That issue is sort of non-reviewable. You can try to call an attorney and see if that attorney can explain that to the immigration officer at the airport. That may be very difficult to do. So you may get refused entry to the United States, and there's really no remedy from that. And absolutely, you will want to let your lawyer know that, because in subsequent immigration filings, they will have to disclose on the immigration forms that you have been rejected from entry into the United States. That should not mean any actual problem to your green card case, provided that it is disclosed in any future immigration filing. So that is those are the big key ideas, I think, with trying to enter the United States on a student visa or on a tourist visa while you have an I-140 or a green card pending.
Okay, that's good information. So what I'm hearing, and just because it's the last thing you said, which might be a little scary for somebody who's listening, they could come here and get denied entry, which could be a little scary. So would you recommend that they wait, or does it just depend on their case? Because I know that's probably their follow-up question. Chris?
I sort of missed that one. I apologize, Danielle.
No, that's okay. Mike, you want to go ahead?
So I usually tell people depends on their reason for coming in. If they've got a wedding they want to attend, they've got a graduation of a niece or a brother that they want to attend, I always say, hey, that's worth taking a chance and coming in. The worst that happens is you get back on the plane again. The fact that you've got a very specific reason coming in, and you're coming in for a very specific limited time to take care of that, I think enhances your chances of getting in. I think if your thing is, well, I just haven't seen my sister in a while, or I've heard Disney's great and I want to spend some time at Disney, then I would say don't waste the effort. That's usually what I say.
Okay, that's good advice. And hey, that doesn't mean you're not going to get to Disney eventually. It just means wait for your priority date to get cleared. Okay, that's good advice. Okay, so hopefully that answers a lot of questions, because I saw a lot of our nurses had a lot of questions in that similar vein. So I see a question from Nelson. Nelson says, does one have to pass IELTS in order to get a priority date? So do you need to pass an English test in order to file your visa application? Chris, want to take this one?
No, you do not need to have the IELTS passed in order to, you do need to have the NCLEX passed, though. You will need the IELTS, which is a component of the visa screen at the time of your visa interview. But very simply, you do not need to have the IELTS passed to have your I-140 petition filed.
Okay, so my takeaway from what Chris is saying, and correct me if I'm wrong, Chris, but you can get filed without that English test, and you can study and take it before you have your visa appointment during what we're calling retrogression. Is that correct?
You've got it correct, Danielle.
All right, so you heard that, so don't delay. If that's something that you're working on, you don't need that in order to get your priority date. Get filed, get in line, get your place. So I think that's some good advice. Okay, so let's see. We have got lots of questions and not a lot of time. So I'm looking through these questions, seeing if we can find some good ones. So I see quite a lot of questions from Indian nurses. I know that might be, somewhat disappointing to see that the visa bulletin movement was not current. Do you have any advice for Indian nurses, Mike?
Most of the Indian nurses that I see are individuals who have immigrated to Canada, became Canadian citizens, and are using the TN visa to come to the U.S., or they have found, as Chris mentioned, the very few hospitals that qualify for H-1Bs, and they're getting H-1Bs. But there is no real avenue for Indian-born nurses for green cards, because the process is still 10, 15 years long. If you can get on an H-1B, you can continue to extend that for that long of time. That's what the IT workers and engineers do. The difference is with RNs, you have to stay at the same facility, because there are very few facilities where you could transfer your H-1B to. So that may be difficult, but certainly TN and H-1B are the two that I see the most. Now, there are Indian nurses that you may have been sponsored by an agency back in 2007, 2008, and you're now up to current. And so if you've got an old priority date, then you may have an option, or you do have an option. But for individuals who are new, I don't know of any hospital system or agency, staffing company, anyone who is putting new Indian EB3 into the EB3 program.
Okay, thank you, Mike. That's some good information. So 2 things I want to touch on. One, if you do have that old priority dates that is now potentially current, or you are a TN nurse and you are looking for placement, we have a lot of options for you. At AMN Healthcare International, we have both direct hire and staffing. So if you are interested, our recruiters are on hand, ready and waiting to help you. amnhealthcare.com/international, and they will be there and are very excited to help you. The other thing, Mike, something that I've often heard touched on these shows is the term cross-chargeability with one's spouse. Is that an option for Indian nurses, and what is that? You want to go ahead and take that one, Mike?
Sure.
Oh, go ahead, Mike.
Basically, cross-chargeability is that you married wisely, and that you married someone born from a different country who has a better priority date setting. Hopefully, that's not the only reason you married them, but if it is, so be it. But you can use the country of birth of your spouse if it puts you in a better position. So if you happen to be, say, an Indian national and you marry someone who is from Mexico, they have an earlier priority date than you, and you can use their priority.
Okay, well, there you have it. Some options for our Indian nurses. So I can't believe we're almost at the top of the hour and we still have our clinical corner. But I want to give you each just a couple of seconds to give us some 2025 words of advice, words of encouragement for our nurses who are watching around the world and maybe feeling a little bit down on what happened with the visa bulletin, or rather lack thereof, for this past month with not movement. What advice and words of encouragement do you have? Chris, you want to go first?
Yeah, I mean, it's very similar to what we talk about on these calls if you join these sessions, which is this retrogression, while frustrating, if you take the long view of this is a very average retrogression time. And many nurses, tens of thousands of nurses before you, have worked through this retrogression. They've come to America. They've been able to fulfill their professional and personal dreams. And so do not be discouraged by any month where the visa bulletin doesn't move ahead, or if it moves ahead, it's only a little bit. Take some assurance that a 2 to 3 year retrogression has been fairly common over these years. And it was only during that COVID time period where we saw what I would say an unusually short retrogression.
All right. Thank you, Chris. Good advice. Mike? Want to go ahead? Anything to add?
Yeah, I would say that with the events occurring on Monday with the President Trump's administration taking over, not to be overly concerned about what you are reading or hearing about what may happen. The first term of the Trump administration had very little to no impact on healthcare immigration. We expect something at possibly status quo in this second. There could be things that happen, and if so, we'll simply adjust and we'll work with those. But I would not be overly concerned about anything negative happening simply as a result of a new president.
All right. Well, thank you, Chris and Mike. Both very good advice. Good things for our nurses around the world to noodle on and think about as we wait to see what happens for the rest of the year. Big takeaway I'm hearing is control what you can control. Do what you can do. Unfortunately, we don't have a direct line to the president, so we don't know what's going to happen, but it doesn't matter. Control what you can do. So thank you, Chris and Mike. It was so nice to see you both again, and I'm excited to see you guys monthly. Thank you again for your time.
Thanks, Danielle.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. So if you are just joining us, we heard very good advice from our legal experts on controlling what you can control. And it made me think about a quote that I heard from Tom Hanks. Let's bring up that quote. Some good advice for our nurses to kind of keep in mind as we go into 2025. Goes as something a little bit along the lines of, if it was easy, everybody would do it. There we go. If it wasn't hard, everyone would do it. It's the hard that makes it great. So I just want to leave you all with that piece of advice. Coming to America, I'll be honest, it's not going to be a walk in the park. I remember coming here. If you've been watching for a long time, you remember my mom, Tanya Friedman, who used to host these shows, and she used to talk about coming to America with her little kids. I was one of those little kids. It is not an easy transition, but if you have a partner that you know and you can trust to help you get to the United States, like AMN Healthcare International, that really can make a big difference. And it is achievable for you. If you're watching these shows, you've already taken the first step. You're gathering the information, you're learning what you need, and we would be very honored to help you along that journey. That really is our goal. And I know for me, for 2025, my personal goal is to help all of you through these shows get the information you need, get the answers you need, help educate you. So when you come to the US, you can make that transition as smooth as possible. So before we close out our show, we also have our clinical corner with Holly. We're going to bring her out now. Oh, or maybe Holly is not on right now, but oh, there she is.
I'm here. Good morning.
Here, she would never miss her clinical corner.
No, y'all are too important to me.
Holly, what have you got for us today? We are excited. I love your clinical corner. I've missed them. I always learn something new. What are you going to share with our nurses today?
Thanks. Actually, I think it's a good time, given the, as you said earlier, the kind of current state of affairs with immigration. We have a lot of nurses who are having to make a lot of decisions around their experience. So what I want to talk about today is that your clinical preparation to come to the US begins now, if it hasn't already. So it's easy to say, this is going to take a while, I'm still committed, but since it's going to take some time, I have some other things I need to focus on and maybe not be as appropriately focused on your clinical preparation for coming here. So as Danielle mentioned, the transition here can be very challenging, even for family members who are seeing you go to work and start your career here, and they see you come home and you're tired and you're feeling kind of down because it's been a very heavy day of learning and trying to figure out personalities at work, a whole new group of people to get used to, and technology and patience and all that good stuff. And they're going to want to help you. And one of the ways they can do that is to help you even now to prepare. So what does that mean? Well, clinically, nurses overseas have some differences that they cannot change because your practice is defined by your hospital's policy, the legal scope of nurses in the country where you're working. So we understand that. However, there are some things that you want to consider if you're looking at what kind of job might be the best one of the options that you have. So if you're thinking retrogression, immigration is going to take me a while, so maybe I don't need to stay at the bedside because so much time is passing. I'll have like a resume that has 5 years of experience. And if I have 1 or 2 years where I do a desk job, it's okay. Understand that your ability to transition clinically and be successful depends on having core nursing knowledge and comfort. So the facilities that give you job offers, they're not expecting they're going to have to sort of retrain you in the basics of how diseases work and what are some basic care items and expected orders and interventions we're going to do. So if you use the gap to walk away from the bedside because you're like, I have a resume that does already have some bedside experience and it won't be a big deal if I'm away. Understand, I work with nurses every day who even for short periods of time may have been away before they got here. And it's hard to readjust. And there's no one to build that knowledge for them. That's not what orientation is for when you get here. Orientation is to help you adapt with what you're already supposed to know. Maybe you're saying, I don't have time. Well, we just talked about retrogression. It's giving you time. But what you don't want to do is something called cramming. So you don't want to be waiting until kind of the last minute to all of a sudden decide, oh, wait, I need to refresh my knowledge. I need to maybe try and get some new skills or learn about something. You have, many of you, the time. So what you want to do is use your time wisely and have regular intervals of refreshment of relevant clinical skills and information. If you have seminars that you can attend on key skills like EKG interpretation, do it. Get good at something that's going to help you be able to transition here more smoothly. Money. It is important to all of us. Many of you have families to support, and you're like, bedside roles don't pay as well as some of these other things that we're talking about. So you may have to get creative with how you earn money. You will learn once you're here, if you don't already know, nurses here, a lot of times we have side jobs. So it's not necessarily that we have to have side jobs. It's that we may work 3 12-hour shifts. And what are we going to do with the rest of our week? Might as well be productive. So we may find ways to earn income beyond what we already have as a relatively good salary. If you can do something to be creative and still get your bedside experience regularly, that's going to be valuable. So if you're working with a partner like AM in healthcare, what you do is you say, hey, I have ideas on what I might be able to do. Is this a good idea? Is this going to set me up for success when I'm ready to clinically transition to my US career? And a lot of times the experts, myself being one of them, will be able to look at your situation and will give you some thoughts and advice. Obviously, it's your decision. Ultimately, you're the one who's going to have to cope with all of these challenges. The last one is an assumption that I want to talk about just briefly. Say, some of you are like, oh, listen, I'm going to get there and they're going to train me. Training of all nurses looks very different today than it did in the past. But basically, we do a lot more online training, which means there's less hands-on. We do a lot of online modules when we get to work. We do a lot of even remediation that way. If there's something you're weak in, we don't say, oh, we're going to give you a few weeks to learn about this by having some patients to care for. We say, oh, we're going to give you some training online. You're going to read up on it, and then you need to apply it. And so that type of training that you may be picturing you're going to get, probably unrealistic. And that's why you have to be really solid on disease processes, on common interventions. Watch videos around US nurses and what they do with some of those common problems in your specialty area. Understand the level of responsibility and autonomy they have. That's why these shows, the Clinical Corners and our LaFora Talk Show exists, is to try and help educate you. And again, when you work with a partner like us, and there are others out there, but when you work with us, that's one of the things we try to provide you with is the tools and resources to be prepared mentally and in terms of knowledge and critical thinking so that you have a successful transition. That's the Clinical Corner for today.
Thank you, Holly. Very, very informative as always. Thank you for sharing your advice. I saw some comments in the comment section thanking you for your advice. So I know it's helpful to our nurses around the world. So thank you so much once again.
My pleasure. Thanks, Danielle. Good to see you back.
Thanks, Holly.
Bye-bye.
All right. Well, as you have heard today, we answered all of your immigration questions. We have Dream Jobs with Dee. We had our Clinical Corner with Holly. A very fun show, and I look forward to seeing you all again soon. Let's bring up our schedule for the rest of the month. So our upcoming shows, as a reminder, we air our Onwards and Upwards shows from 7 to 8 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. On January 31st, we're going to be talking about kids in the USA. We are going to be talking on the LaFora Talk Show about nursing scenarios. What would you do? So that means when you get into those tough nursing scenarios, we're going to give you some advice. And then we also have a new podcast season on our Nursing in America podcast, RN Journey to the USA. So make sure to check us out. We also want to hear from you. What shows would you like us to cover for 2025? I'm back, I'm excited, and I'm ready, and I want to make sure that you are getting all the information that you need. So what would be great and helpful for you as you reach your American dream? What do you want to see on the show? What do you want to hear? We also have our AMN Academy every Monday at 5 a.m. Pacific Standard Time with our partners, iPass, 9.09er, and Aspire, where you can take free classes for the English and for the NCLEX, and they are going to be helping you make sure that you can pass those exams. So this is it. We are at the close of our show. If you want to apply to AMN Healthcare International, where we have direct hire and staffing options for you, you can apply at amnhealthcare.com/international, and we would be very excited and honored to walk you through the process and get you here to reach your American dream. It's great to see everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in, and thank you so much for all of the thoughtful questions. I learned a lot today, so hopefully you did too, and I look forward to seeing you all again soon. Onwards and upwards, everybody.